Hey y'all, and welcome to my channel. I'm Paige Feldman. I'm a writer and director, and I'm documenting the making of my first feature as a writer-director here on YouTube. And today, I am going to do something I've never done before, which is read and get feedback, anonymous feedback, in real time on camera. Now, I've been in this rewrite lab for a couple weeks now, which is something that I decided to do because I've been having a lot of trouble finding that central theme and that spark for my feature Back to You, which is the feature that I'm documenting the making of. So as part of this rewrite lab, you get anonymous feedback every week from people in the lab. And I have not read my feedback yet from this past week, and I'm gonna do it now here live on camera, and I'm going to react to it. And hopefully it is helpful, which doesn't mean all positive. I'd love for someone to love my story. That is amazing, but it's not ready yet. I know it's not ready yet. I know it needs a lot of work. And so I'd love to find things that people are just not feeling. So I'm hoping for a good mix of love this, hate that. And yeah, so I'm just gonna turn over here, get to screen share. And excuse my very throaty voice, I have a cold, so I'm trying to be as chipper and clear as possible, but if you sense some congestion, you're not mistaken. All right, here we're in the email. This is week 1 feedback. I'm gonna download this now. All right, and there it is. And we will get it open. All right, and here we are in the feedback. Lighthouse Story Services is the name of the company that I'm taking this through. And Rewrite Lab, week 1, identifying the target. Page count is including the title. It's 118. It's 116 and a half though. I'm just proud that I'm under 120, you guys. So overview and baseline questions. Okay, before I get into reading these answers, I just want to tell you how this lab works. So we don't just give each other notes point blank. Our notes are answering a series of questions based on aspects of writing that we explore in the session that we have every week in the classroom session. This first session that these notes are responding to is just general premise and basic story things. It's the best way I can describe it. My brain's at 70% capacity right now. So the goal for these notes is to just answer what the story's about, the reaction that you're getting and you're having to this work, as opposed to here's what I think and here's what I need to be fixed, which is awesome because it avoids the, oh man, it would be great if you just put an alien in this problem that I talked about last week in my video about helping people give you good notes, which is in this Rewrite Lab is the inspiration for it. So let's see what they got right, and by right I mean how clearly I communicated my intentions. All right, so what is the premise of the script? It's about a guy that's in denial of his grandmother's death. He meets a girl he ghosted 18 years ago. Accurate. That is, in fact, a way to describe just the premise of this story. And it's interesting that they marked Ash as the main character, when in my mind I have written Mitch as the point of view character, even though Ash and Mitch's goals are both central to the story and they have about equal screen time, but Mitch is the person who we meet first and whose point of view we tend to be seeing the story from. So I don't know if the relation more to Ash as the main character is because the person who gave notes is a man, because these notes are anonymous and they just relate more strongly to someone who more closely resembles who they are, or if this is a person who just was oh, for sure, Ash is the one who I'm rooting for, whose journey I'm seeing. So that's an interesting note to have. I don't know if it's something I necessarily want to fix if people can't tell who the protagonist is, because I see it as a two-hander, but with Mitch being more the POV character. And I don't know whether I want to bother to correct that, that assumption that's against my intentions. Next, what is the theme of the script? Loving yourself, living your life, having faith in others, letting them in. I like that. That's not exactly how I would word it, but all of those elements are in the message that I want to portray, which is about loving yourself before you love someone else, Loving yourself, there we go. And then before you love someone else, having faith in others, letting them in, those are all really important aspects of love. So, cool. How would you describe the writing style? It depends a lot on the dialogue, character-driven. It's really deep dialogue between the characters. Oh, that's so nice. I love my dialogue, and it's very important to me. There's harmony in the conversation, feels right, feels true sometimes. Oh, that's so nice. Oh, that makes me feel good. I know I said I wanted, like, things that were incorrect or things that people didn't like, but it's nice to hear, especially because I've heard so often that people don't understand my dialogue on the page, that it's, like, clunky. So here's someone's reading it and, like, gets it. That's really cool. What is the protagonist's external problem? In my eyes, the protagonist is Ash. Okay, I gathered that from the premise thing. His external problem is facing the reality that his grandmother died, accepting that. God, I'm so bad. I want to correct people's spelling. Accepting. Accepting that and going through the list she sent. So, yes, if the protagonist is Ash, that is accurate. What is the protagonist's internal problem? The internal problem of Ash is he needs to let people in and not being alone and really living his life. Yes, that is accurate as well. Ash is someone who's very closed off, doesn't believe the best in others, and needs to let people in order to live a rich and fulfilling life. That's 100% accurate. But in other perspectives, we may see that his inner problem is that he needs love, or in another perspective as well, we may see he needs to accept his grandmother's death. Yes, I don't know if he needs love. I mean, everyone needs love. But that might be something to look at, because needing love, I'm just going to highlight this if I can. Needing love to me means that, like, love can fix him, which isn't something I want to go for. It's more like he needs to let people, like, the allowing people in, that this part right here feels more true. And he needs to accept his grandmother's death, but, you know. Yes. He needs to accept her death, but also accept that she wasn't, like, the only perfect person for him. The first sentence is accurate. These other two feel a little bit less so, but they are aspects of his character. Who are the top 3 supporting characters? Alana and the grandmother. They left off Mitch, which in the class we had a discussion about whether an antagonist is a supporting character. In my mind, they're kind of like a counter-protagonist, and I said that in class, and so maybe they didn't include Mitch on this list because she is like a counter-protagonist, like less of a support and more of a co-lead, in which case I feel like they should have just made it dual protagonists, but this is how they chose to fill this out, and they see Ash as the protagonist and Mitch as the antagonist, which, thanks to discussion from class, I know why they left Mitch off, which is good. Alana, and then not having a third supporting character, because there's a few other characters that are in one scene or something, but yeah, Alana and Bubby Esta, the grandmother, are the 2 main supporting characters. In what way do the supporting characters affect the protagonist? Next page. They see through him, they know him in a way that he doesn't. They know what he needs while he doesn't, so they push him towards that while he's stuck in one place, not really understanding his feelings and what he wants. Yeah. I think that's accurate. What I don't like about all of this is the implication that Ash needs fixing by other people. I feel like I want him to learn to fix himself, which is this whole thing about how women are socialized to fix people and be problem solvers, and men are socialized to be self-sufficient. And I don't want to, while I'm breaking away from those stereotypes in terms of forcing this male lead to fix himself, I don't want to reinforce them by having Bubby Esta and Alana's plot to kind of push him through this scavenger hunt list thing to help him realize he needs people, supplant all of the work I'm doing in terms of Ash coming to these realizations about needing people and loving himself on his own. It's not bad to need help, but it's interesting that this exercise is pinpointing something that I'm not 100% happy with here in terms of the message. So maybe this tension between Ash needing to do his own work to fix himself and like pushing against this socialization stuff that I'm trying to deconstruct, and the realities of the plot being that like these two women in his life were like, we're gonna fix you. So maybe there's something to look at there in terms of how I frame the creation of this list. Okay, in what way do the supporting characters reflect the theme? They didn't answer that, but I think they kind of answered it above there. All right, what production elements should be preserved at all costs? The Desert House, how unique it is, it must be saved, and the songs, of course, investing high in them and making them the best because of the heart of the story. Yeah. So as part of this, we had to answer these questions for our own scripts, and the Desert House, the location, super important, and music, also super important because Mitch is a songwriter. The third one I said was intimacy coordinator, just to help with all of the sex scenes, make sure that everybody feels safe, prepared, and like able to do their jobs and like they're in a professional environment. But just like if we're talking about like production elements that people who aren't maybe as intimately familiar with the way that films are produced are talking about, these two for sure. What are some evocative shots that stuck out to the reader? When Ash saw his grandmother on the TV talking to him, telling him the truth about the list. Great. That's a really pivotal scene. When Ash and Mitch saw each other for the first time after 18 years when their eyes locked. I love these like eyes locking across the room scenes, and it's really great that oh, I got goosebumps. I'm getting goosebumps about the script again. This is cool. But it's great that this reader felt connected to that small moment. In the climax, when they were fighting really hard, when she walked away from him and he stopped and didn't turn for a minute, and then she turned and she was crying. She was really hurt. That's nice that the like act 2 break, that big fight, really affected them, because I work really hard on those. Like I say, kissing and fighting, those are my two favorite things to write. Those and big dinner table scenes. I don't really have any here, but they do like do a whole Shabbat thing. Anyway, okay. I'm glad those moments were effective. They're all three really big moments in terms of plot, but the Bubby Esta, like, telling him the truth about the list, and then, like, the big fight at the end of Act 2, those are hugely pivotal plot moments. I'm really glad that those are working. Because if those weren't working, then that's, like, there's issues with connecting with characters, which is a huge rewrite. Everything's fixable. It's all fixable, but that would be like something I'd have to rethink potentially. Obviously these are just notes from one person, so maybe others would have felt differently, but if they had said something that like stuck with me in terms of, oh, that feels true, then I would have had to really look at certain parts. All right, last page. All right. If the script, week to week questions. So these are just questions that we get answered every week regardless of the topic of the class. If the script were exploring something fundamental about the world as it is, or the way the world should be, what would that something be? Relationships, family, love, exclamation mark. I like that there's an exclamation mark. Describe the protagonist. They think they know everything, but they don't, and they don't give the chance for ones they love to help to be there, and at the same time they complain that they were not there for them, that they were alone. This is a very apt description of Ash. So I'm glad that his personality has come across. Anything else to praise about the script? The climax scene where they fought, it stuck in my head. It flew so fast while I was reading it. The deep thoughts were so clear. Ash was an ashhole. Ashhole is something a nickname that I had Alana, his cousin, give to Ash. So it's nice that there's a little bit of a call to the script. That feels good that stuck with them. I think it was the strongest dialogue in the script. Okay. So that end of Act 2 really worked for them. That's great to hear. Those scenes are really difficult to build up to, but I'm really glad that worked. Any more feedback you'd like to give? In Act 2, I think there were lots of scenes that I lost interest in reading, like there was nothing happening. The shaving scene I didn't really get. It was weird. Maybe go over what's really in the list, how weird they are, and what exactly are they, like the full list. Let's see what's in it, or maybe it's there but I didn't notice. Okay, that's a good call out here. Yeah, I had, and I should put this in the next draft, just like the list as an epigraph, like between the title page and page 1, just the list so that people can refer back to it. And also just like that Act 2 felt overlong until the climax. So that's a really great note because I can go through and be pretty brutal about like, what is Act 2A about? And is everything contributing to that? What is Act 2B about? And is everything contributing to that? Like with the midpoint separating those two acts into distinct parts with distinct themes. I think that's a great place for me to start with this rewrite. Yay, okay. Plans. The shaving scene I didn't really get, it was weird. The shaving scene is, part of the list is Ash has to take a bubble bath and shave his legs, and Mitch is sitting in the bathtub with him, helping him. And yes, it's weird, but I think it's funny and sweet, and I'm not gonna take it out. But it might not necessarily beat everyone's tastes, and that's okay. Then last paragraph here. Ash denial is clear somehow, but I think maybe touch more on that where he really misses her. Now, Mitch, I don't know if I found an inner problem there in her, or it wasn't that clear. Is she over Ash or not? Or is it all about her career and her songwriting as an external problem? Ooh. Oh, that's a great note. For Mitch's internal problem not to be clear. I know she has an internal problem. Her problem is more that she, at least in first drafts, is she's a people pleaser and she puts everyone else above herself, and a lack of confidence. But I might have lost that in the current rewrite because I changed her backstory so much. She's a one-hit wonder songwriter that hasn't been able to get that magic back. That's also a really good thing to go into this next draft thinking, is looking for what is Mitch's external problem and how is it communicated, and then how is Act 2 broken down, and is everything in each segment of Act 2 consistent with the goals of Act 2. Okay, yay notes. Oh, we got final thoughts though. Final thoughts. I like the cousin Alana. I wanted more of her. I wanted more of the reality of Ash as someone who works at NASA. So Ash works at JPL, the Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, in the script. I would love more of Ash at NASA. I can probably try to find places to insert a little bit more like rockety stuff, but as this is him taking a week off to grieve, I don't know where I can insert it without it being super contrived, because his career is kind of set. But it's good to know that they like those choices for him. And they also like Alana, who is a fun character who's like the catalyst for everything. She's like the little puppet master. If I have an opportunity to add more of her, I will, but this is so much about Ash and Mitch and them coming back together in their relationship that I don't know if it's possible, but it's great to know that that role really stuck out, because that means that when I cast, even if it's, 2 days for somebody to shoot it, those 2 days are going to be valuable and they're going to feel like they have a really strong and meaningful role in the film, which is something I really strive for, just making sure that every actor feels like a valuable member of the cast and a valuable member of the storytelling team. So those were all the notes that I got in round one of my rewrite lab, and I think it was exactly what I hoped for. It was a great mix of compliments, about my dialogue and the fight scene, and the eyes locking across the room, and also some really helpful criticism in terms of Act 2 was boring and I don't know what Mitch's internal problem is. Those are notes that I can really use to hone a rewrite while I kind of get my mojo back on this script and try to figure out what's not clicking with me. Because now I have a plan and I can work to a plan, even if emotionally I'm not there. Mentally I can get there, intellectually I can get there. So next steps for me is doing a rewrite on this script, is getting Act 2 in shape, figuring out exactly what Act 2A is about, what's the theme of it, not in terms of what is it trying to say about the world, but some sort of story center that I can hang it all around to make sure that everything is moving the plot forward and so is interesting. And then also really looking at Mitch's character and doing a pass to give her some depth and an internal problem, so that the next person who reads this isn't going to only connect with Ash because they feel he's the best rounded one. Okay, I have a plan. I got great feedback. It's just such a relief right now to have a sense of direction for this script. I'm back on the road. I'm gonna get this rewrite done, and next week I will tell you all about it, or I'll read my next week's notes, because it might take me longer than a week to get this rewrite done. Either way, I'll be back here next week with another episode of Cake Fight Presents The Making Of, all about the making of Back to You. Hooray! Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next week.